So how do we fix the broken boomer economy? Well, I think we have a lot of things that we can do that will go a long way to help reverse the trends from the last 30 to 40 years. I think there are things that we can do now. We can pressure our politicians now to start listening to the voice of the people, the will of the majority of the people, the large percentage of the population that's been not served by the politics of the last decade or 2 decades and beyond, 3 decades. The middle class, the shrinking middle class, we all know it's shrinking. We're either in it, or we're in it. We've seen the deterioration of our country with our own eyes. We're growing up in it. We've grown up in it. The younger generations under the boomers. And we want change. We want to make a change. I want to make a change. I want change for the better, for my countrymen, for my countrymen, for my country. I want to make America great again. I want us to continue to be the superpower and the example for the world. This is where freedoms arise. This is where personal freedoms are born, is in the enlightenment of the people. You know, it's more it's barbaric, and it's in some ways less difficult to run an authoritarian regime, to be a strong man, whether that's physically or through force of others. It's more difficult to listen to people who don't look like you, and to work with people around you. So back to what I think, the things that we can do now to change this broken boomer economy, because our economy is broken. We're all struggling to get by and survive. And it's depressing, you know. You feel it. You feel the anxiousness and depression of others. You know, the pessimism is common. And so what can we do? Well, first thing we need to do is we need to only allow individuals to buy real estate in America. No corporations, no private equity. Only individuals can purchase and obtain a loan on real estate in this country. Unfortunately, economically, things have gotten so bad that I think more extreme measures are required to accelerate getting back to equilibrium, to accelerate the change away from where we are at now, and towards something that more resembled where we were 25 years ago. You know, we all remember Married with Children, the TV show where Al Bundy worked a job as a shoe salesman, like what, in the mall? Payless shoe stores? Shoe salesman, okay? Minimum wage job right now. And they had a 2-story house. He was the only source of income. And they had 2 kids. So, you know, right now that's functionally impossible. It is functionally impossible, and probably, if I had to guess, just about every state, if not every state, to be able to afford rent on a 2-bedroom house and to feed 4 mouths on a minimum wage job, 1 income at your shoe store. So in order to get back to a place where real estate is affordable for all Americans, we need to keep corporations and private equity out, at least for now. At least for now. We need a massive resurgence of unions in all sectors of business. And I mean it. A massive resurgence of unions in all sectors of business. You know, this isn't about, I don't believe in communism. I don't. This isn't about being socialist or communist or trying to change our capitalist system. I think our capitalist system is the best system in the world. I think our country has proven it. But I also think our country has taken advantage of its position as being like, you know, the one with the dollar that everybody uses, the global currency, by getting into so much debt and leveraging debt. But we are the greatest country in the world, and that is in large part because of our freedoms, the passion of our people, of what it means to be an American, freedom to be an American, to exercise your rights, to not be treaded upon, and that we have a capitalist economic system which allows every individual the opportunity, if they show up and apply themselves, to create a life that they can provide for a family, create more Americans in an economically viable and sustainable way that betters society. So we need to bring unions back to all industries. In the 50s and 40s and 60s, you know, unions were widely represented in most industries, if not all industries. I'd have to go back and look at the data, but it's over 50% union representation as far as industry. Now it's what, 10%? It's almost non-existent, and it's constantly under attack. And that's because the boomers have allowed the corporate culture to metastasize in a way that it predates upon the public, predates upon us, to extract the maximum amount of value. And we have to put a tamper on that, because you know what? We are the people. We have the voice. The Constitution starts with we the people. It doesn't start with we the corporation. And if they had their way, it probably would. But you know what? That's why we stand up. And that's why we say no. And that's why we demand to be heard. Now, this might be controversial, but I believe that all elementary, junior high, and high schools should be providing free lunch to economically disadvantaged students. Every single school. Every single public school and every single private school as well, because economically disadvantaged should have no class association. We should be able to reach, and we have the tax dollars to spend on hungry kids, our future generations. Do we want America to be strong in the future or weak? Do we want it to be frail or fit? And it starts with the young children. We have to ensure that we can, at least while they're at school, provide one meal. At least one meal. For some of these kids in our current economic system, that might literally be the only thing they eat. Or it could be half of what they eat all day. And these kids are rapidly developing and growing, and their potential is being diminished by a lack of nutrition. And we're supposed to be the superpower of the world, and our kids are nutritiously deficient. We will cease to be the superpower of the world if we continue to have a culture that does not put a value on the future generations, and does not design its political and economic system in a way that benefits them, because they are easy to forget about, because they don't have a voice in Congress. You know, economically disadvantaged people don't have a voice in Congress, let alone young children. And we have to look after them, all of them. We have to. We are the most privileged and wealthy civilization ever to exist, and we can't look after our children. It's mind-boggling that we're even in this position. We need government funding. We need to increase government funding, if there is any even right now, or created for after-school sports programs nationwide. I don't know if you've noticed, but I sure as hell have. Our local leagues have all but disappeared. The leagues that I used to play in when I was younger, most of them are gone. I think maybe one league is left, and I might be wrong. I think they're all gone, and now we're at, it's changed into private leagues, private teams. What does that mean? Well, you have to pay for access. Public leagues, all you had to do was show up. Didn't matter who you were, where you lived. And why has that changed? It takes such a little amount of money to fund a league, or to fund a team, a team of 15 kids. It takes less than $1,000, or maybe $1,000, to buy all the equipment, all their uniforms, maybe pay for snacks, and maybe pay for some referees or whatever, right? Not pennies. And where are they? Where are these leagues? Why are they disappearing? I can't make any sense of that, and that needs to come back, because sports teaches children valuable lessons early in life. How to communicate with others, strangers. How to potentially get along with strangers, which means you have to communicate. How to accomplish a goal with a team. How to become a unit versus the individual. How to win. How to be a gracious winner. And how to be a gracious loser and not be a sore loser. How to lose, because you will lose in life. It's guaranteed. But you will also win. And sports might be the first place in society where you learn that reality, and you begin to consciously develop those skills. And we see what it looks like when children don't develop those skills, and they're really poor losers. And we see what it looks like when those children grow up to be adults and they don't develop these skills, and they're really sore losers, or they're really bad sport winners. I like to rub it in people's faces, which I'm all for a little showmanship. Of course, you need to be confident in your abilities, and you need to enjoy your success, but also understand what it means to have some decorum and to be a gentleman. And you learn these things early on in life in sports. And to take away the leagues, or to watch the local leagues just evaporate, and what I can only assume is a lack of funding, just a little amount of funding, that means that on the local level they've lost sight of the importance of these community leagues. And if you see that in your community, start talking about it, speak up about it, bring it to the attention of people, because the older generation, the boomers, they're not going to notice if the leagues are gone. The only ones that will notice are the ones who are involved in their grandchildren's lives, which we know is less than the majority, most likely, unfortunately. And some of those are going to be funneled into private leagues. So they're not going to notice, or they may not notice, that the local leagues evaporated. And we can bring that to their attention. I think we need to force corporations to bring back a pension option in all industries as well. All industries that offer a 401k, all companies that offer a 401k, we need to mandate that they also have a pension option, that you get to choose which one that you want to pay into. So, and the nice thing about that is if you paid into a pension, you could also have an IRA on the side or some type of retirement account on the side as well. But I think the removing of pensions was deliberate to make more money for companies and to shift more of the profits to the company's pockets than to the workers after they've retired. And I think that's had a disastrous impact and effect on the psychology of Americans at large. Reduce people's comfort knowing that they'll be able to financially retire and pay their bills throughout their retirement. They won't run into a situation where they can no longer pay their bills, and then what, they're going to be homeless at 85 years old or 80 or you know, at the end of their life they're going to be in financial distress. That sounds like something that I don't want to experience. I can only imagine the stress that would put on somebody, especially somebody at that age and in that condition. So having a pension option at large may begin to reduce the likelihood that those occurrences take place, which is good for America, right? We're supposed to take care of our elders. Yes, our you know, the Native Americans call them elders, senior citizens. Yes, we want to take care of them. Yes, we do. And pensions is one way that we do that. I mean, this is well understood. This is why boomers had pensions 40 years ago in most industries. This is why. Now, this was before 401ks, but it could be argued that, you know, the financial creativity was intentional to benefit the corporation and not the person, not the individual. And as our government needs to not allow that to happen. It needs to recognize it and not be corrupted through being bought out, compromised, to allow these types of things to happen. We need to recognize these things when we see them collectively as the younger generation, and we need to speak up about it and say it needs to stop happening. And we need to demand a change to the retirement system that is now in complete control of the corporation. Who you work, you know, in a lot of ways dictates how financially viable your retirement's going to be, how much the company's going to pay, your 401k, how much they're going to match. But I think if we brought back a pension option, without getting too much into the details, there's potential there to improve the retirement situation of Americans, which would then give some comfort to everybody, the entire population. You know, it would motivate people to be maybe more effective at work, maybe work more, because they understand that at this age they can retire gracefully and they can live the last years of their life gracefully and not be in economic stress or not be in economic ruin, which kills people all the time. Just being financially ruined kills people all the time. The stress, the body can't handle it. So we can't have our senior citizens in this predicament at large. We just can't. That's just no way to live. Nobody wants to live growing up knowing that in their country, in their culture, this is the likelihood for them at the end of their life. It just creates nihilism and defeatism, and it's the opposite of what America stands for, and being proud. Well, to be proud, the country must do things that fosters this type of feeling for it, and this is how it does those things. We need to bring back shop class in high school as an elective for kids that are good with their hands, that aren't going to cut their arm off, because, you know, they used to have shop class back in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s. I think it stopped in the 90s. There was a wood class, maybe a metal class, maybe some welding, most likely wood shop. But I think that being totally gone is a detriment, because it closes the door for high schoolers who are preparing to enter the workforce. It closes that door mentally. If they don't have access to these tools at home, then they'll likely have never been exposed without shop class to what it means to cut a piece of wood, or weld two pieces of metal together, just to put your hands on it and to actually do it. They'll have zero exposure to it if they don't have exposure at home. And I think removing shop class from high school was probably rooted in liability insurance crap. And we as Americans need to stand up and say companies only have so much power over our lifestyle, and there's just some things we're not going to accept. And them removing shop class from high school because of the liability is one of these things. We will design the class to be as safe as possible. We'll have instructors on site at all times, and we will begin to develop young adults with these skills to enter the workforce, whereas now we don't have them. So it will be a net positive. I think bringing shop class back is a big deal, and I don't think anyone's talking about it. We should start talking about it, if you agree. And I think we need to have a required lifestyle finance 101, life finance 101 in high school, that every student must take and pass to graduate. And this class teaches you how to balance a checkbook, how to balance a budget, it teaches you what compounding interest is. It teaches you about credit card interest. It teaches you about very basic statistics, so you can understand probability at the very basic level. Having kids graduate high school and enter the workforce and immediately be bombarded with advertisements from credit cards and personal loans it's extremely predatory. It's an environment that benefits the credit card companies, because they are hoping that these young impressionable adults with no credit will take them up on their offer and go spend on maybe things they don't need, unnecessary capitalism, and become in debt for no reason. And then they realize, oh wow, this 30% interest, that's a lot more than I thought it was. All of a sudden my minimum payment means that I'm paying $2,000 on $1,000 debt if I make the minimum payment. Well, I don't understand that. Well, because you weren't taught that. Unless the parents teach it, they won't learn, or they'll learn the hard way, which is probably the way most people now learn. And we start off learning the hard way and being put in a difficult position that could just be completely negated if we had a basic finance requirement class in high school. In order for kids to get a driver's license, they have to take a test, which means that they've learned how to drive. But for them to get a credit card, they don't have to take a test that says they've learned how to pay the bill back, how to pay it back. So we know what this environment is. It's a predatory, corporate, free market, capitalist environment, which is fine. But that means that as individuals, we have freedom to prepare our most vulnerable the best we can. And one of the ways we can do that is to have just one class that teaches the basics about these types of things. There's a few things that really hit you. as a young adult. Credit card debt is one of them. Balancing your checkbook is another one. Not incurring bank overdraft fees is one of those. So these few integral, basic financial foundational understandings we can as a country, we can ensure that every student has had exposure to what it means to be responsible with them. And you watch, if that was to happen, I bet you the average credit score would rise by 20 points in the next 5 years as a consequence. We need to double the number of recesses in elementary and junior high. Well, I don't think they have recess in junior high. Probably no, in elementary. We need to double the number of recess classes in elementary school, because our kids are fat and they're unhealthy by and large, and they need more exercise. And if school's going to do anything, it needs to get them in shape. It's going to make them sit at a desk and learn about history or facts that they probably will never use in real life. Some of it may become helpful during a conversation. Most of it won't. I've never had to solve a quadratic equation in my adult life. But if they were to double the amount of recess classes, these kids could be more fit, more physically healthy. Then we might have, from the very beginning, more fit, healthy, able-bodied potential Americans for our military, for our massive sports complex, our professional sports complexes, and just being healthy in general. We should strive as a nation to be as fit as possible. Now, what I mean by that is to obtain as much exercise as we can, and one of the ways we can do that is doubling the number of recess. I think they have 1 or 2 recess periods, 10-15 minutes. Well, why don't we make that 4? What's more important? What else could you be spending a half an hour on during the school day than making sure these kids have as much exercise as you can give them? It's really going to have a positive impact as they age and develop into teenagers. And then what I think we need to have at the high school level nationwide is we need to have what I would call like a direct pipeline to the local industry program. So at high school and junior college locally, there would be a program where the schools would network with the local industry and create this network that they could communicate with each other. The industries, the companies could say, hey, this is what we do. If, for example, if we're in manufacturing, if you have any welders or people in your shop class, graduates that are looking for jobs, send them our way. Sounds like a good idea. These kids are going to be hungry for success coming out of high school or junior college, especially specifically because if they were in junior college, it means they couldn't afford to go to a university, most likely, or on some occasions they didn't want to go. But I would say the majority it's a financial reason. There are some other reasons too, like you want to get your general classes out of the way, sure, but still it's probably financial. So having a pipeline for these hungry young adults just sounds like a win-win. The companies can spend less effort in advertising and having to scour hiring boards, and the high schools and the junior colleges can advertise that they have the ability to place kids into schools directly after they graduate, or I mean into jobs directly after they graduate, which is incredible. That's an incredible thing if it was to take place. You know, the I've been there. To have had that as an option would have been something that I definitely would have explored to its maximum potential, to see what was available to me, because networking is huge, especially in a small town. Networking is key. Who you know in a lot of ways dictates what jobs you can get into. And I think lastly, for today, what we can do to fix the broken boomer economy is we can dramatically bolster the first-time homebuyer program, dramatically, and increase the leniency for single income source applicants. If we were to both remove private equity and corporations' ability to buy homes while also increasing, bolstering the first-time homebuyer program, I think we can see an increase in homes owned by families, especially young families. I mean, the average age of a first-time homebuyer is like almost 40 years old now. It should be 25 years old or 23 in a healthy economy where the economy services all generations equally, which by all you have to do is show up and apply yourself, and success is available. You know, I think that a healthy economy in terms of generational wealth accumulation would be a bell curve. It would be a bell shape where in your young ages you have little to none. In your middle prime years, from let's say 30 to 55, you have your most amount of wealth accumulation. And then in your twilight years, let's say from 60 plus, it starts to diminish naturally because you begin to work less. What we have now as a result of the broken boomer economy is a curve that is skewed to the right. And so wealth accumulation is concentrated in your twilight years, which is at odds with family creation and building in a culture that fosters the youth and develops the next generations to continue the cycle of prosperity and strength, and to ensure that America stays strong and as a beacon for the entire world to see what it looks like when you become more enlightened and you give your people freedom. You allow them to reach their maximum potential. We have yet to get there, and I want to be alive when we do, because I really think that's when it's going to be a great time to be American.